It's important to acknowledge the fountainhead of the idea is a gentleman called Xavier Jongen, and he's the CEO of a company called Elithis. And that company specializes in advisory for the built-up environment on topics that relate to sustainability, originally. And they always thought, well, why is the industry not going a little bit further than what we're actually seeing? Because there are kind of creative solutions that can be found that are a little bit gutsy, but not that much. Mm-hmm. And they just noticed that that most of the market participants still shy obviously a little bit away from let's say the next step. You know what we will do? We will develop the towers ourselves then. Because if we think that we can do it one step further, then that fits our culture and identity. And so they made a prototype. The first one was actually in Dijon, was the first energy positive office building in the world. Yep. It's now their headquarters. And then they developed a residential tower. I came actually from a foreign affairs perspective into real estate. When the Berlin Wall fell, we had to liberalize the former socialist countries, right? And one of the bigger capital stocks was residential, because all of that was owned by the state, and all of that needed to move to private ownership. And one of the kind of things that amazed me at that point is that when the people got their house for free, they actually could not pay for the energy bill. Yeah. And I thought, well, that's a little bit strange, no? Because from our capitalistic kind of Western background, you then were shocked about that effect, right? How can you get so much money for nothing, but you can't pay the energy bill? But the concept of our investment strategies, we always thought about, I couldn't let loose of that idea that housing is so fundamental, and you need to make sure that people can pay for it, either the mortgage or the rent. And then I forgot a little bit about the energy costs for a couple of decades until they're now back again. But that's a little bit where this kind of E and S impact that we always had comes from. There's more consciousness about the relationship between returns on the short term, returns on the long term, which I think is essentially the dilemma. And in order to bring that to the proper price point, you actually need to embed the whole of economic and financial thinking into a more ecological kind of paradigm, so that the financial markets, economic markets, are connected to what the planet really can produce and cope with. No, and so far we had this disconnect, and what we're trying to do, what we should do all, is bring our paradigms of thinking together so that the two start to connect. And the price point is only one extremely important, but one step in that. There will be many, many more steps that we all need to go through so that we kind of have a more sustainable economic growth than we now have. It's extremely important that the innovation that these guys make is transposed in an honorable way by ourselves as investment manager, but then also the ripple effect continues. You need to have partners that are able to translate that innovation in terms of what they need to change in order for that to have the real impact that it actually can have. And then ultimately what you are talking about is they're not necessarily, the company that has the biggest IT setup. IT is extremely important, or the best processes. Processes are extremely important. You're actually looking for a culture of customer centricity, of innovation oriented, of solution oriented, of direct communication lines. Yeah. And those are the criteria that are really important for a project like this. because the ripple of innovation needs to come from the engineering guys, through the investment management guys, through the IFM, through the depository, and through the legal advisors and the fiscal advisors, no? Because otherwise it doesn't get there. It is indeed very difficult to make the proper investment decisions from Helsinki to Jerez and from Dublin to Varsovie, and then at the same, for Resi, and then at the same time being able to run the IFM, the central administration, the depository, and the whole world that actually connects to, like the supervisor.
Yeah.
So ultimately, once that light bulb kind of appeared, well, yeah, not true, it's too much, then it makes more sense to focus on that where you think this is where we are really good at and want to be a little bit better than our friends in the market, and we should put all our energy in that. And the rest, you should have the best partner that can help you work and complement your value chain. So this is the fundamental reason.
On the innovation side, are there any things, I mean, it was built in 2018, 2019, we're now a few years ahead. Are there any new things to be expected from the buildings that you're developing right now that are not in the, let's say, the first version of it?
We have a pipeline in Bordeaux, we have a pipeline in Brest, in Nancy, some other cities. So, and every building, that's the fascinating thing, has its own type of innovation as well, because it depends also on exactly what the location is of the building and how it sits against the sun and how it sits against the soil and what the quality is actually of the immediate biophysical surroundings, right? So it's actually quite a holistic design concept where, again, everything is connected from the planet to the engineering to the finance. And there are many forms of innovation that are not necessarily duplicatable in every other tower.